The book I chose was Creating Magic, 10 Common Sense Leadership Strategies from a Life at Disney by Lee Cockerell. Lee Cockerell is a former executive vice president of operations at Walt Disney World, and he was the vice president for 10 years. He led a team of 40,000 employees, created the Great Leader Strategies, which are common sense lessons to help you become an effective leader. He believes that leadership starts with respect for all people, and this is the basis for his leadership strategies. It helps us to remember Peter Drucker, who said, "They are not your employees, they are your people." Lee wrote this book to help business and everyday people better themselves as leaders and as individuals. It is filled with common sense lessons about making magic that can translate into our own careers or business cultures. These common sense lessons, which are the Disney Great Leader Strategies, are the basis for this book to help connect, illuminate, and motivate individuals. In the book, Lee teaches us the importance of treating others right, and that's the backbone for any successful leader. Lee created the 10 leadership strategies, and since there are 10, I'm going to, after I tell you what they are, I will go into some of them in more detail, but others not so much. The first leadership strategy is to remember that everyone is important. Lee says it's important to make sure everybody matters and that they know it. It doesn't matter who they are or what job position they have or what they are in life, but to make sure that they know that they matter. He says it's also important to know your team and to let them know you. That's important because when working with other people, it's important to take an interest in them. As a manager or leader, it's important to show an interest in your staff or team to let them know you care. And knowing each other and stuff about each other will also help you communicate and work better together. And that goes to why communicating is another key component in remembering everyone is important. You have to be able to effectively communicate with your employees, so it's important to communicate clearly, directly, and honestly. A leader needs to be able to communicate effectively information to employees regarding their jobs and what is expected of them. Just like communicating is important, it's also very important to listen and to listen to understand. When a boss actually listens to their employees and actually understands and takes actions, it shows that they care and that the people matter. Strategy number 2 is break the mold. To do this by treating everyone equal, get as flat as you can, meaning to make sure every employee knows what's expected of them, what they're responsible for, and how they could be accountable. And it's also important not to have excess employees for no reason. Only have the employees that you need. It is also important to remember that responsibility and authority go hand in hand. The more authority you have, the more responsibility you'll have. The next strategy is strategy number 3, and that's to make your people your brand. Lee talks about how important it is to have the right people working for you and representing your company. You need to define the perfect candidate, and you need to do that before the hiring process. Don't settle for a clone and select by talent, not by the resume. Select the best person for the job, not the best that's available. When it comes to interviewing, it's important to involve team members. So show their opinions matter and to get more than one opinion on the new applicant. Disney also goes through a very vigorous process, being very selective. They really try to get to know you personally and to know what really matters to you. Once you hire someone, be sure to constantly evaluate performance, and if the candidate ends up not being a good fit, then recognize it and terminate kindly and quickly. Strategy 4 is to create magic by training. Give people a purpose, not a job. Become a coach. And coach stands for caring, observe, communicate, act, communicate, and help. He also says it's really important to teach by example. You can't expect your employees to be respectful and to do their job if you as a leader aren't doing it. You need to train people for magical moments and make sure they know how to do their job. Also, it's still important to effectively communicate clearly. If someone is doing a good job or maybe even a bad job, be sure to offer them feedback immediately to help them correct their mistakes or to praise them for doing well. Number 5 is to eliminate hassle. Ask what rather than who. Don't be looking to put the blame on someone. Listen to your customers, learn firsthand what's working and what's not, think ahead, and evaluate the changes you make. Strategy 6 says to learn the truth. And this means as a leader or a boss or manager, you need to get out and about and get on the ground level as your employees. And you need to do this several times a day. Explore and know what is going on in your organization and act upon the information. Ask your employees questions about their job to get a feel for what they think. Asking them questions shows concern for their well-being and that you care about making improvements in their job better. It's also important to get feedback about yourself to see if you're doing your job and if there is any areas you need to improve on. Strategy number 7 is to use the free rule. Spend meaningful time with your employees, which goes back to strategy number 1 when it said to get to know your team and who you're working with. Catch them doing right, and when you do, recognize it. Make it public and give ARE, which is appreciation, recognition, and encouragement to frontline employees. Make this a part of your daily routine. It is really important to show appreciation for what people do in your company and to recognize it to help them to continue to do a good job. And it's important to continue to encourage people to keep up the good work if they're doing well. Strategy number 8 is a walk ahead of the troops. Be a knowledgeable sponge, learn from the best, learn from your competitors, and study your customer base. This is important because we are always learning. We will never stop. Strategy 9 is to be careful what you say and do. Demonstrate a passionate commitment to your role, meaning make sure to maintain a positive attitude and to show that you take pride and really enjoy your job. Also, carry yourself like a professional even when the curtain is down. You never know who is watching or listening, and anything you do or say represents the company, so make sure you're always carrying yourself positively and professionally. Remember to stay yourself through. Okay to still have a sense of humor and joke around if the time's appropriate. It will show your employees that you can lighten up to and humanize you. Stay humble too. Never let your role get to your head and never think you're better than anyone else. Remember, everyone matters and what they do matters just as much. Strategy 10 is to develop character. Anticipate ethical dilemmas, live your values, train for character, not just skill, teach your values. My analysis and evaluation of this book is that I think Lee Cockerell is very credible. He's a vice president of Disney for 10 years, and they still use these strategies today. He writes books, gives speeches, and writes blogs as well. The book confirms what we've talked about in class because in class, Chapter 1 talks about communicating and leading at work. This corresponds to Lee because he talks about how to communicate directly, clearly, and how to lead others. Chapter 4 in our book is about listening and responding. Lee talks about this in Strategy 1 to listen and understand and how to respond effectively. Chapter 7 is interviewing principles and skills. Lee talks about finding the perfect person for the job in Strategy 3. Chapter 9 is about collaborating in teams, and pretty much every strategy gives you tips that will help you collaborate in teams better. I enjoyed reading this book and think it was very helpful, and I would definitely recommend it to others. And to conclude, Lee Cockerell is a very influential, smart man. He didn't graduate college, but still showed that he was a great leader in person. His book teaches us how to be a better leader, manager, boss, or just a person in general. I will carry what I've learned from him with me every day in every situation. I really admire him for taking a more hands-on, nice guy approach to leadership.